Jeffrey Epstein's fortune, where did it come from? Estimated at over 577 million at the time of his death in 2019, built primarily through managing the wealth of a small number of billionaires. This is what we're told. Is it the truth? Taking advantage of tax loopholes, they say, and according to reports, misappropriating funds from his clients. Interesting. But is it true?
Out Jeffrey Epstein's rise, the critical importance of the people he connected with, and the lies, the thievery, all that you lay out after, what, months, years of this investigation.
So they say primarily his income, Epstein's wealth, came largely from fees paid by billionaires like Leslie Wexner, founder of L Brands, and Leon Black, co-founder of Apollo Global Management. Between 1919 and 2018, Epstein took at least 360 million in dividends from his companies. Whoa. Now that's a heck of a lot of money. They say Wexner's relationship provided Epstein with full power of attorney, allowing him to manage and reportedly steal vast sums of money. In 2018, Epstein, repaid Wexner 100 million. 100 million in a private settlement. Damn. Tax avoidance now is another area. They say Epstein saved an estimated 300 million in taxes over 2 decades by utilizing tax benefits for his companies in the US and Virgin Islands estate compositions. At the time of his death, his assets included cash investments, approximately 380 million in cash, hedge funds, and private equity, real estate, a New York townhouse, 50 million plus, a Palm Beach mansion, 12 million, a New York ranch, 17 million, and a Paris apartment, 8.6 million. Islands, 2 private Caribbean islands. I thought it was only one of them, the one that we all hear about in the Epstein files, but that's not the case. Great St. James and Little St. James. Oh, I see. Initially valued at 86 million and sold for 60 million in 2023. Other assets, a private jet sold for 10 million and a helicopter 1.5 million. This guy was really getting it in.
It really starts at Bear Stearns, where Epstein is introduced to a guy named Ace
Jeffrey
Greenberg.
Epstein. The deadline was set with the passage of the Epstein Transparency Act last month. One of the questions that's remained largely unanswered until now is, how did Jeffrey Epstein become so extravagantly wealthy? Wealth that both enabled his crimes and shielded him from scrutiny and accountability for so many years. Well, a new investigation by the New York Times uncovered details about Epstein's rise previously unreported and provides an answer. The investigation's headline, Scams, Schemes, Ruthless Cons, the untold story of how Jeffrey Epstein got rich. This is a video clip featuring some of the reporters. It begins with business reporter Jessica Silver Greenberg.
How did Jeffrey Epstein have the financial backing to abuse what turns out to be hundreds of young women and girls?
The hundreds of millions of dollars that Epstein amassed, the palatial estates and aircraft.
Connections to some of the wealthiest, most established people all over the world. There's been a tremendous number of conspiracy theories and myths.
From he was running a huge blackmail operation to he was affiliated with spy agencies.
Through months of reporting and digging through documents,
people's diaries, letters, old photo albums.
Now, the thing that baffles most people, I guess, is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein amassed this huge fortune, and they say, despite the fact that he was lacking traditional business training and without graduating from college, primarily by acting as a relentless scammer, some say allegedly, who cultivated, manipulated, and eventually stole from the extremely wealthy individuals, according to a December 2025 New York Times investigation. His wealth was built through a combination of early lucky breaks, you gotta have luck in that game, aggressive exploitation, well, any game as it goes, of wealthy benefactors, and in his later years, taking advantage of tax loopholes in the US Virgin Islands. I think all of the wealthy take advantage of tax loopholes in any part of the globe, wherever they reside. Or if they have to move to a tax haven, they know the ins and the outs and the tricks. These things are generally stacked. Say key methods of amassing wealth, exploiting high net worth individuals. Yeah, we've heard about that. Epstein's primary source of wealth was acting as a financial advisor to billionaires, most notably retail tycoon Leslie Wexner has been mentioned already. Apollo Global Magnate, yes. Co-founder Leon Black is given full power of attorney by Wexner. Yeah, that we've been told already. Now, there's a bit about bounty hunting and early scams. They say early in his career, Epstein established himself as a bounty hunter. That is news to me. Tracking down missing assets. Oh, I see. Not physical people, but assets. Missing assets for wealthy clients. A reputation he used to secure trust. He also engaged in early fraudulent and often unethical business dealings, such as $450,000 scam against a pinball machine executive. Okay. Yeah, this guy got around. Exploiting tax havens. In the late 1990s, he moved his operations to the US Virgin Islands, taking advantage of economic development programs that allowed him to save approximately $100 million in tax over 20 years. He was in for the long haul. They say the Bear Stearns connection, despite having no degree, was hired at Bear Stearns in Epstein was hired at Bear Stearns in 1976 due to a personal connection and quickly became a protege of senior executives where he learned to navigate the financial world. He was eventually forced out of the firm for ethical lapses. Yeah, you're going to hear about that in one of the later clips, but not before cultivating, or one of the earlier clips, cultivating crucial networking connections. The guy was obviously smart. Misappropriation of funds. When his relationship with Leslie Wexner ended in 2007, it was discovered that Epstein had misappropriated, stolen over $46 million and possibly much more from the retail mogul. Holy moly. Here's some key takeaways on his success. Investigations concluded Epstein was less a financial genius and more a prodigious manipulator. That's become clear through these Epstein files, I guess, who specialized in separating wealthy individuals from their money. Yes, a key skill in that field. He often leveraged his charm, they say he was charming, and the promise of tax avoidance strategies to gain access to his targets. Well, there you have it. It's not all the insight, though it does give us a sense and a clue and an idea of how he managed to amass some of this money. I mean, there are those who say he blackmailed wealthy and well-known characters who he invited to his parties. He had info on many, big name personalities. And they also are the allegations that he was a James Bond type character, a Mission Impossible type figure, basically a international spy of
In his early
sorts.
20s, he was a high school teacher with no background in economics. Wexner described him.
Just a guy, but medium height and with dark hair.
Just a guy with dark hair. Although he's talking about when he first met Epstein. That hair gave way to grey pretty quickly. I spent 5 hours watching Les Wexner's testimony before the US House Oversight Committee last week. And it was a lot more interesting than Epstein's interview with Steve Bannon.
A banana in a bag.
It was interesting because it might provide an answer to the question at the very core of the Epstein scandal.
How did Jeffrey Epstein really make his money?
Let me tell you, the survivors have said over and over and over, follow the money.
The mystery of Jeffrey Epstein's wealth has never been clarified.
The origin of Epstein's money. For most of Epstein's early 20s, he was a high school teacher with no background in economics. According to just about every report on him, he never showed any particular financial genius.
They were talking about inflation. I didn't understand the concept. I don't understand the concept today.
And this has led to speculation that he got his money from somewhere else.
Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American.
Epstein was blackmailing powerful individuals and trying to control them.
I mean, this is clearly, obviously, sexual blackmail. His island was a honeypot.
I have spent months that I will never get back trying to find the most likely source of Epstein's money. And this deposition of Les Wexner has provided the clearest and simplest answer yet. So, is this the end of the mystery? Can we trust what Les Wexner has told us?
When you're a banana, one of my favorite examples is the banana that's sitting on the countertop in your kitchen today. Is it alive or dead?
What do you think about human life?
This is part of a 2-hour recording of Jeffrey Epstein chatting to noted MAGA influencer and former White House advisor Steve Bannon.
So if you put your banana in a bag and put another fruit in with it, the fruit ripens faster because the banana breathes with it. We don't understand most of those things.
It was early 2019, just months before Epstein's arrest and subsequent suicide. Steve Bannon was apparently trying to find ways to help Epstein rehabilitate his image through the magic of podcasting.
What do you think human life is?
It's a miracle.
Now, nothing newsworthy comes out of this 2-hour interview. Bannon doesn't grill Epstein. There are no hard-hitting questions, no admission of guilt or remorse, no insights into Epstein's appalling crimes. They don't even get to the bottom of whether bananas are conscious. There's also no indication that Epstein is particularly gifted when it comes to financial management, which is a bit surprising considering Epstein is generally referred to as
American financier Jeffrey Epstein.
The wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein.
Billionaire financier who rubs shoulders with high society and celebrities.
A billionaire financier. And yet when you watch this video of him talking to Steve Bannon, he seems more like, well, this is how one of his financial clients, the retail billionaire Les Wexner, described him.
Just a guy, but medium height and with dark hair.
Just a guy with dark hair. Although, he's talking about when he first met Epstein. That hair gave way to grey.
Where did Ghislaine Maxwell get her money from? It was one of the biggest mysteries in the Jeffrey Epstein story. For years, a narrative circulated that she was financially dependent on Jeffrey Epstein, and that after her father's disgrace and death, she was left penniless and needed him to survive. But the financial trail we found suggests something more complex. In the 1980s, her father, Robert Maxwell, was one of the richest and most powerful men in Britain. He was a media tycoon who was credited to have saved the Daily Mirror. But in reality, during his ownership of the paper, he secretly looted more than £500 million from the company's pension fund. In 1991, he was found dead in mysterious circumstances, floating near his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, off the Canary Islands. His empire had collapsed, leaving his family in shock. The family claimed that there was no money left. Yet banking records tell a different story for Maxwell's favorite child, Ghislaine. When JP Morgan reviewed her accounts in 2013, it found that she held around $10 million. The bank concluded that these funds had come from secret trusts linked to her father's estate. The biographer John Preston said it is plausible that Robert Maxwell siphoned money into offshore structures for her favorite child, before his death. And these assets would almost be impossible to trace today. Jeffrey Epstein later left Ghislaine Maxwell $10 million in his will, although it remains unclear whether she received it. Taken together, this evidence that we found casts doubt on the idea that Ghislaine Maxwell relied on Jeffrey Epstein financially. If she had independent wealth, then her association with Epstein was not just about survival, but something much more sinister.
It's said that as early as 2026, despite multiple document releases by the US Department of Justice, numerous significant questions remain regarding Jeffrey Epstein's network, finances, and death. Ongoing investigations, particularly those focused on newly released, heavily redacted, as we've seen, and still secret files, continue to fuel scrutiny. High-profile associates, scrutiny of his high-profile associates. These are the questions that have been asked, as we know. Key ongoing questions include the secret client list and co-conspirators. While we know who some of them are who've been accused over here in the UK side of the globe, that is Andrew and Mandelson. The question is, what's going on over the stateside. While a 2025 FBI review found no evidence of a single formal client list, investigations are focused on identifying the 10 potential co-conspirators mentioned in the federal documents. There is intense focus on who else participated or benefited from the trafficking network. Particularly the trafficking network. The role of estate executors. Questions persist about why Darren Indyke and Richard Kahn, Epstein's longtime lawyer and accountant, continue to control the remaining assets and secrets of his estate. Allegations have surfaced that they allowed funds to be used for legal fees of other potential co-conspirators, a claim they have denied. Financial origin and scope. It remains unclear exactly how Epstein amassed his fortune and founded a at times billion-dollar trafficking operation involving thousands of bank transfers. Now, these are some of the questions I hope have been answered during the clips that have been reviewed here in this video. Intelligence connections. The possibility that Epstein acted as an intelligent asset. Now, that one is really being looked into more and more. Remains a major unverified question spurred by a 2016 comment by former Labour Secretary Alexander Acosta. He was told to leave a 2008 case alone because Epstein belonged to intelligence. Prince Andrew's involvement. Following 2026 renewed scrutiny, including the release of photos and emails investigating probing the extent of Prince Andrew's relationship with Epstein, with calls for him to testify in the US and questions regarding his 2010 contact with Epstein after his initial conviction. The circumstances of death, skepticism regarding the official ruling of him being unalived in 2019 persists, with ongoing questions about missing surveillance footage and whether foreign DNA was found on the sheets used in his unalivement. Missing or redacted files. There is ongoing pressure on the Department of Justice to release millions of still scaled documents, including FBI interview notes from accusers and potential evidence related to high-profile figures. International reach. Investigations are looking deeper into Epstein's international operations, specifically with French modeling scout Jean-Luc Brunel, I didn't know about that, and Epstein's activities in the US Virgin Islands. Recent 2026 developments have also brought intense focus to the continued legal battles over the, at times, slow release of or potential withholding of critical documents by the Justice Department. And there you have it. Stick with us here, as there is more to come, more answers, more questions, and more food for thought. And let us know what you think, what conclusions you've drawn from these clips and this information. Let us know in the comments. And before we continue, just want to have a word from our video sponsors. Today they are smalldebts.co.uk. If you are having trouble with your payroll management and you need someone to do an email campaign for you, or somebody has scammed you online and you want that money repatriated back to your account, you're at the end of your tether, pulling your hair out, check them out, smalldebts.co.uk. They'll be in your corner and get things sorted.
Small Debts provides full-service invoicing and credit control, managing everything from invoice submission to reminders and follow-ups. We can send emails from your domain or ours. Let Small Debts keep the cash flow rolling, whilst you focus on growing the business.
Well, there you have it. Now back to the business of Jeffrey Epstein and how he amassed all of that wealth and money.
Epstein's rise, the critical importance of the people he connected with, and the lies, the thievery, all that you lay out after, months, years of this investigation.
Yeah, we've spent a long time on this one, and it really starts at Bear Stearns, where Epstein is introduced to a guy named Ace Greenberg, who was a top executive at the investment firm. And Greenberg and another of his colleagues, Jimmy Kane, who's also a top executive there, took Epstein under their wings and made him their protege. And Epstein proceeded to go on kind of this spree of wrongdoing at Bear Stearns, everything from abusing his expense account, lying on his resume, giving a girlfriend early access to kind of hot investment deals. And time again, Epstein's protectors at the bank went to bat for him and basically got him out of trouble. And this was the start of a lifelong pattern for Epstein, where he would push the envelope, cross ethical, moral, sometimes legal lines, and basically escaped with impunity because of his really astounding ability to charm people in positions of power and to use his leverage over people in positions of power. And one of the things we heard about Bear Stearns was that he was, and this was a time in the late 70s and early 80s where there was a lot of drugs and sex going on within the firm itself. And Epstein, it sounds like, was providing some of the top executives with drugs and with access to women. And so, you know, he had leverage and he was not afraid to use the leverage. And again, we see this over and over and over again in the ensuing decades of Epstein's life and career.
Now, that's just one view of who Jeffrey Epstein may have been. This last clip really goes into it and tells you something about who he really was. Let's get it.
Just a guy, but medium height and with dark hair.
Just a guy with dark hair, although he's talking about when he first met Epstein. That hair gave way to grey pretty quickly. I spent 5 hours watching Les Wexner's testimony before the US House Oversight Committee last week, and it was a lot more interesting than Epstein's interview with Steve Bannon.
Your banana in a bag.
It was interesting because it might provide an answer to the question at the very core of the Epstein scandal.
How did Jeffrey Epstein really make his money?
Let me tell you, the survivors have said over and over and over, follow the money.
The mystery of Jeffrey Epstein's wealth has never been clarified.
The origin of Epstein's money. For most of Epstein's early 20s, he was a high school teacher with no background in economics. According to just about every report on him, he never showed any particular financial genius.
They were talking about inflation. I didn't understand the concept. I don't understand the concept today.
And this has led to speculation that he got his money from somewhere else.
Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American.
Epstein was blackmailing powerful individuals and trying to control them.
I mean, this is clearly, obviously, sexual blackmail. His island was a honeypot.
I have spent months that I will never get back trying to find the most likely source of Epstein's money. And this deposition of Les Wexner has provided the clearest and simplest answer yet. So, is this the end of the mystery? Can we trust what Les Wexner has told us?
Don't forget to like and subscribe, keep supporting the channel, hit the bell icon, leave a comment. Love to read the comments, I get back to all of them. Thank you again for spending time with myself. As per usual, on your idea here at CornerSpeak. Till next time, for now, be good, be safe, be creative. We're out.